Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another Tuesday with Forward. Scott, it's great to see you. And Rachel, it's wonderful to have you with us tonight. I want to welcome everyone who's listening, whether you're listening to this live or tuning in to catch it later on. If you are watching live on Facebook or on YouTube, as always, please throw questions that you might have up in the chat comment section. Scott can pitch those to me and to Rachel throughout the conversation, and we would love to hear from you. So thanks to everyone. Well, I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite a few weeks since we first talked about it, Rachel. The fabulous Rachel Lynett is a playwright. She's a dramaturg, and she is the artistic director of the new Rachel Lynett Theater Company, and a very new group, but that has sort of entered the field with a bang and a lot of really exciting programming. So I'm so looking forward to hearing more about what you've got going on and what led you to create the company.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. I first thank you for having me on. I'm super excited to be here, and I've also been looking forward to this for a really long time. So there's a lot of reasons why I wanted to start the company, but I think the most streamlined way is with a mix of coronavirus and COVID and the protests, all kind of, it felt like everything was happening all at once and colliding, kind of like how it feels today. And I started to look at a lot of these theater companies that were releasing statements in response to the George Floyd protests. And what I would do is I would be like, okay, this is a great statement that you've released, but this is also the same theater company where I experienced a lot of microaggression. And there was no going back to artists and saying hey, we acknowledge now what we did was wrong. And so I kind of felt there was a hint of a little hypocrisy for me. Mm-hmm. And then also I was like, I had this funny moment where I was like, there need to be more Black women leading theater companies and on the boards, and they need to be taking charge. And then I kind of looked around my empty apartment and was like, oh no, it have to be me. Who am I shouting this to? So that's kind of what started it. And so the Rachel Lynett Theater Company really aims to lift up voices by women of color, but also queer theater artists. Basically, a lot of the people who for the long time were the sidekicks, I want to put them center stage. Yes. And I also want to look at the ways in which theater has supported and moved and enforced white supremacy, and to example that too with the company. And so we just wrote a new mission statement, so I don't remember it right now, but it's very wordy and all it basically is saying look, there it is. Oh, there it is.
Yay, Scott.
That's our mission statement. I will read it like I'm a kindergarten teacher. Our mission is to radically work against the ways in which the institution of theater has prioritized and centered cis-normative whiteness by producing plays that center on queerness and characters of color, creating more opportunities on stage and off for communities marginalized by traditional structures. We will do this by producing the plays of Rachel Lynett and plays by queer and or women of color playwrights that are in conversation with Rachel Lynett's work. So that's our mission. I wanted to start off with my plays. Honestly, the simplest way to say it is because royalty free. And that's and I've written 35 plays now. So I've got lots of material. I wrote 5 since June.
Amazing.
Since March. I've written 5 since March. So that was one of the reasons why it was my plays, but also all of my plays center women of color and queerness. And I really wanted to start putting that center stage. And so that's kind of, it's not just me. I have 2 wonderful friends helping me. Whitney Wasson and Sheree Bohannon are geniuses and brilliant, and there's no way I could do it without them. And I'm really excited that they're also on board.
Well, it's been so thrilling to watch how quickly you've thrown yourself into this work, how quickly it's been taking off. It is such a wonderful, wonderful improvement of the theater ecosystem, both nationally, but also just here in Madison, to have a voice like yours, a company with a mission like Rachel Lynett Theater Company's mission. We need this very much. You and I had met, just a few months before COVID struck. So it's been really just so amazing to watch this just take off. I want to talk more about the things you've been doing with the theater company, but maybe let's just go back for a moment first. you're relatively new to Madison, right? Last fall is when you moved here. So go ahead.
I moved here in January.
Even newer than God, moving to Madison in January. That's rough. That's rough. Usually people come in the summer, so they have this beautiful fall to kind of acclimate. That's right, January. We must have met in February then. Lord, okay. Well, walk us through your journey, who you are, what sort of brought you, and what brought you here.
Yeah, so I like to joke I won't give the full hero's journey because that takes a very long time. But so I went to school in Indiana, and I kind of I didn't really understand. Like, I went to the school that just wasn't good for my personality or for me in general, and so I kind of just partied the whole time as like a way of self-care, a very toxic way of self-care. And so it turned out by the time after failing every other major, I stumbled into theater pretty late. I switched to theater the second semester of my junior year. And
so did I.
Oh, that's awesome. I love us late bloomers, it's not even that late. We were like 20, but
yeah.
So I switched to theater. And I loved it. I fell in love with it. And when it came down to graduation, I didn't have all the internships that everybody else had that had been doing theater since freshman year. And so I was like, I really want a job in theater. I don't want to do anything else. And I got offered a job, an internship that paid. I got offered two. So one was in Chicago Shakes and it didn't pay. And the other one was in Bentonville, Arkansas. And I was like, I guess I'm going to Bentonville, Arkansas. And I have to say, everything that I thought about Arkansas and everything that I expected it to be, I was wrong. There's like this little wonderful blue corner in Northwest Arkansas that's actually a lot like Madison.
Great.
So I was there for 8 years, and I was just ready to try something different and to try something new. And I kind of felt like my career was the farthest it was going to get while I was there, and I wanted to keep moving forward. So my best friend was like, I'm moving to Madison. And I was like, great, me too. And so I searched for jobs, and I just got very lucky that I ended up getting a job here. And so I moved here for the job, but really I really wanted to come here either way.
That's great. That's so great. And your job is at?
I work at UW-Madison at the Wisconsin Union Theater.
Another space that our audiences hope to be able to return to before too much longer.
Someday, yeah.
Someday. Well, you talked a little bit about some of your thematic focuses as a playwright, but tell me a little bit more. I mean, I've read some of your plays. How would you describe your style as a playwright? We've talked sort of about themes, but the kinds of stories you like to tell and how you like to tell them.
I like to tell dark, inappropriate comedies because that's my humor.
Yay!
I like it when, I like the joke where I make a joke and everybody groans is kind of like my favorite kind of joke. So that's my entire play. Usually it's like people laugh and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm laughing at this. But I also really like to center on really messy women who are usually queer. Because I don't think we have enough messy women on stage, on screen, anywhere where they're not villainized. So it's really important to me to write women who don't have all their stuff together, who are kind of scrambling, but are still on the outside, they look like they have everything together and they're these bad women or whatever. Bad is the slang term, not bad. And I like to really explore that dynamic of the difference between supposed to and what's easy. Mm-hmm. And kind of the lines in there. I also really love writing about race, gender, and sexuality just because those are things that are very important to me personally. And I think we also need more stories that are more complex than coming out stories.
Yep.
That are more complex than someone discovering that they're trans. I think those stories are important, but trans people should be allowed to also have stories where they're fully human and three-dimensional. And so I wanted so those are my plays, is really to just kind of give truly the stage and to give them the main role rather than the quick side character. But yeah, most of my plays are about very messy, complicated women and queer
and funny.
Yeah.
And there's just not enough comedies being written in contemporary theater. So again, super necessary voice. Do you have, and I know many of your plays are on the National New Play Exchange, right? If there was someone who didn't know your work and they said to you, I want to start reading your plays, what play, or maybe you don't have to pick one because it's like picking your favorite child, but like, you know, as you said, 35 plays. If someone was looking for, you know, a couple that would give them a sense of what your writing is like, do you have ones you'd particularly recommend?
So it's funny because like I like to think of I would be a horrible mother because I definitely do think of my plays and like which one's my favorite child, and I basically like send them out into the world and it's like prove you love me. So
parents do that too. It's all right.
Prove yourself. So my favorite plays, I think like if you're trying, I have so many and they're so different. I think if you want to see a play of mine that's fun and it's all about like human stories and human connection, I think As You Are, which is a pretty new play, really shines really well on that. If you want to see a play where I start from a traumatic incident and then make it funny and make it fun and make it about joy instead of trauma, Last Night is a really great play. My personal favorite is Abortion Road Trip, which a lot of people are very put off by because of the title. But that one's just I think it really shows character work and my humor and how I can take something pretty heavy and make it fun and funny.
That's awesome. And you've done some dramaturgical work as well, supporting other playwrights. How big a part of your career has that been?
It used to be like 10% of my career. It was something that I did. Well, when I did it for Ford, and that was very exciting.
Yes, for Wisconsin Rights, yes.
But it's something that I did because I wanted to help other like emerging playwrights who wanted extra help and probably didn't have the support, or maybe their school didn't have a playwriting program, and that's kind of how I got into it.
Mm-hmm.
Was just, I would create notes, and then I was like, well, you know, this is an actual thing, so I should study this more. And so now it's probably at about, over the summer, it rose to 50%, and now it's dropping back down to 30 since I'm working full time again. And
sure,
I just can't do it as much as I want to. But most of it is like truly me just being like, as a playwright, I will read your play. I'll do the historical background, like the dramaturgical context. But I'm mostly just there to say, like, what is the heartbeat of the play? And what do you want people to walk away with, and let me help you get there. Yeah.
Dramaturgs are awesome. It's always good to have more of them here in town. So I've been thinking a lot about, you know, these early months of Rachel Lynett Theater Company. And in some ways, it reminds me a little bit of when we started Forward, because when we started Forward, it was in the middle of the 2008-2009 Great Recession. And we were surrounded by companies collapsing all around us. And it was partly because they'd sort of built up this infrastructure, and then the financial legs were cut out from underneath them. And it was like, oh, what do we do now? And, you know, as hard as it was in some ways to start a company during a recession, it was also easier because we weren't dependent on anything that had been taken away from us. We were just building up from zero. And as I look at companies, literally everybody across the world is coping with the impacts of COVID on live entertainment and what that means. I wonder what it's been like, because you started this company when COVID had already happened. So again, something hadn't been taken away from you, and it's been great to watch how you've leaned into the parameters of what's available right now with all of these online readings. And, you know, you hadn't already sort of scheduled a bunch of live productions that you then had to walk back. So just talk to me about kind of like what you were thinking as you started building the plan, and maybe describe some of the things you've been able to do already with RLTC.
Yeah. Well, oh boy. So for me, I was thinking like, I really was like, it's COVID. It's nice to, one of the things that I talked to Whitney and Sheree about was having a pretty flexible season. Like, one of the exciting things about our season is we don't announce shows until right before. Just because people are so, you hear about, like before in theater, it's like you hear about a show 3 months out, you have tons of time to buy tickets. And now it's like, you hear something about 3 months ago and you forget about it. So we wanted to have a little bit more flexibility with like when we were going to release titles, and like how do we make that more exciting. And that's something we're still thinking about, is like, what's the most exciting way to announce titles. We also, I don't know, I really want to believe this, and I hope that we can stay true to it, is I would prefer to have a bunch of smaller donors than 1 or 2 large donors.
Healthier.
Yeah. I think it should be more spread out, and I like this even though it's called the Rachel Lynett Theater Company and it is my plays, to me it's a lot more about the community and uplifting people who have felt like there are no good roles for me. And that's why I started writing in the first place. And so this theater company is just kind of pushing that ideal even forward of like, what's missing from the American theater landscape, and how can I add to it? So with that said, some things that we've done already is we've done so much. We did 2 readings of plays already, both of which have curse words in them. So I don't know if I'm allowed to curse or not.
Go for it. I have to tell you, the forward audience has probably heard it all at this point.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So in June, we did a virtual reading of my play, I'm Fucking Tired of Writing Plays About This. And then in August, beginning of this month, we did a play called Rich Bitch. And so what we're trying to do is every other month is a play, and then the off months are special events. And so July's event was just Meet Us. It was an introductory, like Meet Our LTC. Our September event, which is really exciting, is we're going to have a panel called Surviving American Theater with some playwrights that I have loved for so long, and I adore every last one of them. It's Candace Jones, Adrienne Dawes, and Stacey Rose, and they're all like big names, and I'm so thankful that they said yes. And we're just going to do a panel just talking about our experiences, me just moderating and them talking mostly about their experiences in theater so far and what they've learned and what they'd like to see change in theater, and kind of like as a challenge to how we feel about the We See You at American Theater. And just as a challenge to say, like, here's us just having a very honest and frank discussion about what it's been like to just exist, which I think will be really fun.
It's a super impressive panel, and I hope everyone listening is able to make time to listen to that. So is that kind of your, for now, plan, alternating months, readings of plays? Yep.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah, and we'll see. I think I think all of us, everyone in theater right now is dealing with Zoom fatigue, and how do we keep people invested? And so what's been working so far with us is the plays is we haven't tried too hard to make it feel like, I feel like it's interesting, the more we say this is just a casual reading, the more people forget they're on Zoom. Like, we don't try to make it a full production, just like treat this like a living room reading, and people have really appreciated that. So I hope that continues, but that is a challenge. I know even I'm starting to feel a little bit of it, of just I'm on Zoom all day for meetings. I don't want to do this in my free time.
Yup. Great. So you've got this event in September, and then another reading in October, and so on and so on. Yeah. So if folks want to be in the know of your events when they're coming, so they can make sure to sign up and be a part of them, do you have a sign up on your website for like a mailing list, or is social media the best way for people to follow what's coming up?
Social media is great, but there is a sign up for our mailing list. I think it's under contact. I should know this.
Scott's going to do it for us right there. Look at that.
If you just contact us through here, we can put you on it. There's another one, and I just don't know where it is right now. But there is another way to get. But if you just email me, I'll add you to the mailing list. So, or contact us through the sheet form.
Yeah, fantastic. So this is the kind of question that's either super fun or super annoying. So if it's the latter, feel free to say, yeah, annoying, and we'll move on to the next one. But I'm curious, do you have like a vision for where you'd like the company to be? And let's say like 5 years. So it's not, the crazy 20-year down the road dream, but it's also, dear God, let us be completely post-COVID by then world.
Yeah, I am thinking about this more and more. I know that something that I think about a lot is that I would like to step down as artistic director after the company is settled. So I'm thinking like 3 to 5 years is when I would step down and hand it to someone else. And I think a lot about like expanding a bit more. Like, once we are not as concerned with only like I said, for rights, like once we have the money to pay more people, of like not doing a season full of my plays, but maybe doing a blended season where there's 3 of my plays and 3 of other people's who I feel like are voices that need to be amplified. Mm-hmm. I really want, my vision, and I know this is going to sound really cheesy, is just to use this as a way to amplify voices that feel like they've been silenced.
Yep.
And to just find ways to keep doing that in the least narcissistic way possible. So I think a lot about, like, I want to make sure that we have a rotating staff, that we have different visions and different people looking at it. But that I don't know, I think I go back and forth with me stepping down, or like I just like go into like founding artistic director and then someone else comes in as artistic director, just to get that new energy and vision in. Just because they are my plays, so I'm very close to them, and it might be nice to have someone with some distance be like, okay, Rachel, you're crazy. So that's what I know right now. I think we're still trying to figure out what this company looks like long term, but that for me, as long as we are amplifying voices, then we did it. We did a good job.
Right. Do you have thoughts for ways in which you would like Rachel Lynett Theater Company to work within the Madison community? I mean, one of the things about starting right now is, of course, it can have a kind of national focus because it's all online. So you can use actors from wherever, you can use directors from wherever, audience can be wherever. But as we eventually transition back to a world of live theater, live performance, are there efforts or communities or connections that you're hoping to make here in the Madison area?
Yes. I would love to. I would love to get more connected. I feel like thank you so much. You've connected me so much with the Madison theater community. That's been really great. I'd love to learn more about the community. I'd love to hear from people about what they feel is lacking here. Mm-hmm. And where they feel like they've been ignored, and to kind of see if we can work together to fix that, or maybe not even fix it, but begin to do something towards fixing, because I don't think fixing happens overnight. So I would love to. That said, we are also still thinking about staying virtual.
Cool.
Just so that we can keep that national feel. I really love, like, in all of our readings so far, we've had like actors from all over the country. One time we had an actor that wasn't even in the country. And that's fun and exciting, but like, so I'm being, and also like the 2 people that work with me that are helping me out, they also don't live in Madison. So I think about, like, once we're in a post-COVID world, I would love to do classes and workshops in Madison and doing a lot of that. But I think some readings would still, I don't know, like I have a lot of crazy ideas. One of my crazy ideas is that we would do a reading first to kind of show off the play virtually, but then we would do a live production of it.
Yeah, that's not crazy.
So I want to keep that blended thing going forward no matter what. But of course, yes, I would definitely love to be connected and get to know the Madison theater community even more, because I mean, they just moved here in January. So
yeah, well, I don't think there's anything crazy about that at all. I think that the what's going to be really interesting in this entire field is to see how the workarounds that we're using because of COVID, I'm seeing so much creativity, so much connection that is happening in this way, none of which negates my deep and profound desire to be back in a rehearsal hall and back with a live audience. But that doesn't mean we have to throw away everything that we're learning and creating and innovating with right now. And I think that there might be some real opportunity to incorporate virtual components and less local components to the work that we do going into the future. And yeah, I'm seeing Joe and Luann. That's a unique concept. Certainly now is a great time to learn how to do theater in a virtual environment. Exactly what we're talking about. And so, yeah, I don't have, sort of future vision goggles on where I can, be sure how everything is going to play out. But I feel really pretty confident that these kinds of online conversations, online readings are going to remain part of our industry. They enable us to do things we can't do when everything has to be in person.
Right.
So, Brave New World.
Yes,
Brave New
definitely.
World. That's exciting. Hey, Scott.
Hey, I want to say that all the responses in the message in the comments, everyone's just beyond excited to have you in Madison and looking forward to seeing what you do in the future. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we've had more than one person ask about the depths of your Doctor Who fandom based on the poster over your shoulder. If you wouldn't mind letting our fans know just how much you love Doctor Who, I'm sure they'd very much appreciate it.
Yay.
I love Doctor Who. I'm so happy that you recognize the TARDIS.
Oh, come on. Who do you think we are?
I'm a huge nerd.
I'm just going to start posting all of them.
All the TARDIS comments. That's fantastic. Do you have other, nerddoms that you geek out on beyond Doctor Who?
Yes. Sorry, I'm reading the I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, so on my doors outside of my apartment I have the flag for every house.
Awesome.
And then my house is like the main door. And then so I'm a Harry Potter fan. I'm a fan of Doctor Who, a comic book girl. I grew up reading the Marvel comics to the point where I've annoyed everyone, or I'm like, that's not what happened in the comics when I watched the Marvel movies. I have very strong opinions about Marvel versus DC that I will be glad to share with anyone. I like Avatar. I belong to so many different fandoms. If it's got magic in it, I've probably watched it, and I probably have strong opinions about it.
Harry Potter books or movies?
I'm really upset with J.K. Rowling right now.
Well, yes, exactly. Yeah.
So I have to say the movies just because that's not fully her, even though that hurts my soul to say, because the books have such fun little things in them that didn't make it to the movies.
Yeah.
But just because I'm mad at her, it's like the movies because she didn't write them.
Yeah, that's an extremely legit take at the moment. I think that's kind of where I am too. Can't quite quit the Harry Potter world, no matter what. I feel like we get to own it. Maybe.
Yeah,
it's ours. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Well, you can tell people are paying close attention and taking in all of the details. But we did not get to see your cat, despite my great hopes.
Yeah, she's hiding. She gets in her moods.
Well, she's a cat, so that kind of goes without saying, right? Yeah. Well, this has been so wonderful. I would love to do it again in a while when we're a little farther along with RLTC's evolution, and we can talk more about that. And I know you and I will stay in close touch regardless. I definitely want to encourage everybody who's listening, go to the website, sign up to be on the mailing list so that you'll know when these really exciting events are happening, because they're going to be kind of here and then gone, right? So you have to jump on it while it's available. But Rachel, thank you so much for joining us, because this has been an absolute delight. And for everyone listening, come back next week. We've got George Segrist from the Wisconsin Arts Board joining us. So we'll have some, I'm sure, deep conversation about how great Wisconsin is in the realm of arts funding. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe, stay well, stay 6 feet apart, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.